Welcome to the CastOFF. This is your host, Craig Price. Welcome to our penultimate episode. Our little guy, my co-host, gives you a hint of what we're going to talk about today, the fabulous Ghostbusters. But before we get started, we've got two contestants who are fantastic. And in fact, I believe they share the same host, so being from Utah, not unusual. Let's go to our two guests today. That is going to be Tracy Mangum and Tyler Russell. Tyler, how are you guys?
Good.
Yeah. So you are both co-hosts of previous winner Valerie Cameron's. Let's dig some dirt. What's going on?
Yeah. So we're from the same family called the Stolen Droids podcast. We all come from that group. So me and Val host a show called Multiplane.
Yeah, but I want to hear some dirt on Valerie. What
dirt on Val?
What dirt do you have on Valerie? We'll get to you in a second. I want to hear about the dirt on Valerie. She's not here. She's, she doesn't even watch the show, I'm sure. She didn't probably watch this show. So go ahead and tell me some dirt, and then we'll be all set. So what's the worst thing she's done on your podcast, Tyler?
Honestly, I have zero dirt on her. She's putting in so much work right now, and I feel like I'm so useless.
Well, you have definitely reinforced that right now. Tracy.
She said the term balls on the air before.
Oh, that's no big deal. All right.
I know.
You guys,
again, you don't Utah.
Yeah, I know. You guys, the balls is not a big deal. Today, I'm going to use probably the first or second swear in the 7 episodes we've done. So let's start with Tracy. Tracy, you've been on the show before, and I want to explain why you're back. Mostly because we went from a 3-person to a 2-person format. And when I did that, I looked back at the past episodes, and you tied with Steve Condrick and had to go into our only overtime.
Yep.
And so I thought, well, I mean, you did 3. Let's bring him back. We'll make the other person, I can't remember who it was at this point. I think it was Richard Jensen. We'll make him the loser, and we'll make you the winner, and have you, or you a non-combatant, and then we'll have you come back. So welcome back to the show, Movies That Make Us.
Yeah, so Movies That Make Us, as the title implies, we talk about movies. We like to keep it lighthearted. We like to keep it positive. It's a celebration of film. It's kind of like a book club for films. We try and do, especially now with COVID, we've been doing a weekly episode on Saturday. We talk about pretty much anything that we enjoy and encourage other people to go check out. We've done anything from like Summer Rental with John Candy to Just Mercy that we did last week.
Yeah, Summer Rental, I saw that, and the raccoons are my favorite, especially when they start talking about hot dogs and what they're made out of. They're just fantastic. One last thing before we move on to our next contestant is that you're raising money for a January run.
Yeah, so in January, I'm going to have the opportunity to do what's called the Dopey Challenge. And
perfect.
It's 48.6 miles over 4 days. You do a 5K, a 10K, a half, and a full marathon back to back to back to back. And raising money for the American Cancer Society.
My last question is, why do you hate yourself so much?
I did my first half marathon, and I said I'd never do another one, and then I just kept doing them. Having a deadline keeps me getting runs in, which is helping me keep my weight down.
Oh, you look great. You've lost quite a bit of weight since I've met you, and you're doing fantastic work. So good work with you, man.
Thank you, sir.
And our other contestant, Tyler Russell from the Multiplane Podcast. Multiplane being the animation camera they use to make separate levels in animation for Disney.
Yep.
So,
well, first off, Tracy, I feel like throwing up just thinking about running that much.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so on Multiplane, we talk about Disney film, TV, the parks, pretty much anything that you can think of that's Disney, we talk about it.
Yeah. I don't want to be presumptuous, but I think I was the first guest you guys had.
You were our very first guest. And yeah, correct. We talked about James and the Giant Peach.
Yeah. Start low so you can build. I like that. That's a good way of doing that. Well, let's get on to today's contest. The rules are quite simple. Basically, I'm going to throw out a character, and you're going to name an actor. Whoever I deem to be the best choice gets 1 point. In the future, I hope that we'll be able to get an audience to pick the choice, but right now it is me, and so I am the judge, jury, and executioner. But to throw it in a little mix-up there, I have also chosen people, and if you happen to pick my secret selection, you get an additional point. Now, my secret selection is not always the best choice. I've had people who have picked better choices than what I have done. Yes, it happens from time to time, but most likely you'll get 2 points as it's historically accurate. Although I believe Steve Condrick is the one that did that and was able to use that bonus point to usurp you, Tracy. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. I keep bringing up all the bad stuff. I'm sorry. Obviously, the person with the most points wins. It's fairly obvious. If there is a tie for some reason, you will have to come up with a double feature on the spot immediately. I will give you like 5 seconds to think of a movie that fits with it, and you tell me who it is. Before we do that, though, as always, today's show is sponsored by Matinee Heroes, and this weekend, on Saturday, we're going to have The Gray with Brendan Agnew. Brendan has been on the show. It's going to be Brendan and Alan Cerny and myself. This movie is so much more than just man versus wolf. It's a really quality film. So if you haven't yet, you can head over to matineeheroes.com and subscribe. And if you haven't subscribed to the show you're watching right now, why haven't you yet? You can head over there at matineeheroes.com/castoff. Well, are you guys ready to play?
Let's do this.
All right. Today's game is Ghostbusters, as Tracy is trying to garnish favor with me by having his background as the Ghostbusters. And we're going to start off with basically the whole reason the Ghostbusters is so phenomenal is because Bill Murray is so phenomenal. And he is going to be very difficult to recast because he is Bill Murray, for God's sakes. So, Tracy, you were going to go first. Who do you have to star as in this movie and replace the one and only William James Murray as Peter Venkman?
So this was a tough one for me. I needed somebody who's going to be able to do the deadpan humor. I wanted somebody who's incredibly funny. I want somebody who is able to improvise. A lot of my picks have improvisational backgrounds. I went with the actor, and not super well known, but Matt Berry.
Now, Matt Berry is a very funny guy. Kind of an odd choice for this, though. A lot of the people know him now because he's in What We Do in the Shadows. He's fantastic in that. He was great in the IT Crowd. And if you haven't had a chance to see The Toast of London, he's very good in that. That's, of course, where he goes around yelling at Clem Fandango. He's got quite a boisterous, over-the-top, very dramatic voice. And so I thought that was kind of going to be an odd choice in this kind of situation because, again, he's super funny. But I don't know if he's charismatic enough to lead a movie like this. But we'll see who Tyler picked because it could be worse. It could be better. So Tyler, who do you have for Peter Venkman?
I kind of went with someone who can put off just the smallest hint of swagger, but then also can be very, very hilarious. I picked Jonah Hill.
See, now Jonah Hill, another funny guy. He's in a lot of Judd Apatow comedies like Superbad and Knocked Up, but then he actually learned how to act somewhat. Got nominated for an Oscar for The Wolf of Wall Street. These two, I'll be honest with you, were really difficult, and not in the usual way. Usually I'm sitting there going, oh my God, these are two great guys. But in this situation, no offense, these two guys are great second bananas. We got Matt Berry. We got Jonah Hill. I'm not sure either one of them play a lot of likable characters. But if I had to pick between these two, I have to go with the funniest, and that's going to be Matt Berry. Matt Berry is hilarious. So Tracy, you get a point there. If you haven't, I'm waiting for his Inspector Rabbit to show up. It's on BritBox or something. I'm waiting for it to be released in America. Matt Berry is very funny. Jonah Hill kind of irritates me a little bit, but that's just Jonah. I went with Robert Downey Jr. because I needed a leading man who can be sarcastic and yet still likable. And he's got to be quippy. Yeah. He's got to be quippy. He's got to be kind of smooth, and that's Peter Venkman. Next, we move on to another comedy legend, Dan Aykroyd, as Ray Stantz, the guy who pretty much wrote the movie. Everything was created by him. This is his baby. So we're going to start with Tyler this round. Tyler, who do you got playing the everyman conspiracy theorist that is Ray Stantz?
I went with Ken Jeong.
Yes, this one is another strange one. I like Ken Jeong, very funny guy, actual doctor, for those of you who don't know, because he was on Dr. Ken, and that was a sitcom, but he's an actual doctor. He's actually done some stand-up and saved someone's life in his stand-up set. So just by sheer heroics, he gets to be a couple extra points there. Okay, is what I'm trying to be polite. This one's a weird one. Because I think he'd be a much better Louis Tully, than he would be a leading guy. But that's just
we'll see
me.
When I get to that.
Well, yeah, well, that's just me. Tracy, I'm not gonna lie. There may be an opening here.
Well, I've got my first lead ever on this show, so I'm hoping to score another one here. I went with somebody who can pull off the a little bit serious, a little bit deadpan. Somebody I think is incredibly funny. I went with Keegan-Michael Key.
Yes, Keegan-Michael Key is very funny. Not a lot of TV work. He does a lot of commercials, and now he's hosting Game On CBS. But as far as sketch comedy goes, between Mad TV and Key and Peele, there's not much he can't do and be funny. So as I move on, I think we're starting to see a pattern here. We've got Ken Jeong versus Keegan-Michael Key. Yeah, got to go with Keegan-Michael Key. I'm sorry. He's just phenomenal. And the fact he should be getting more stuff. He should be getting more work, and he doesn't.
Yes.
I think he is overlooked. I think Jordan Peele is the famous director who deserves all the accolades, but I think people kind of forget how great Keegan is. I had Bill Hader.
I like that one.
I need someone to explain all the conspiracy theories and not be unlikable. And I think he would be good at that. Well, now we move on to the female of the entire movie, the lovely, the talented, the iconic Sigourney Weaver. Going to be very hard to replace her. Tracy, who do you got playing Sigourney Weaver?
After Bill Murray, this was the next hardest one for me. Since I went with Matt Berry, he's kind of a shorter, schlubbier guy, a la Bill Murray as Venkman. I wanted somebody who would be comedic, but yet somebody who's very straightforward and serious, somebody that demands a lot of respect and is very charismatic on screen. So I went with Charlize Theron.
Now, you were on the Mad Max Fury Road episode, correct?
I wasn't, but I listened in.
Oh, no, that's right. Well, so we know that I have a penchant for Charlize Theron. That's why she's almost perfect in my eyes. Great pick. I thought you were using that against them. Having been on the show a couple times, you know me a little bit. That's also part of the gamesmanship, is knowing what I would pick. But Charlize Theron, the very little she has done that's bad, if any. I don't know. Tyler, you got a long road to hoe here, buddy.
I feel like there's going to be a long gap in the points right now.
Yeah, right now there is. It's 2-0.
Oh, it's going to be 3-0, I'm sure.
Well,
if you have a big thing for her, so mine. And this, I can agree with you. It's weird, but I was just trying to play through different people who.
I know, but I'm looking at your face, and it's not like you picked Kathy Bates. I mean, go ahead and tell everybody who you picked. I think it's an admirable pick.
Jennifer Lawrence.
See, I think
All right.
if you have Jonah Hill, I think she'd be perfect in that Ghostbusters. Absolutely. So this is not a bad pick. It's just that your face makes it look like you picked the lady from Throw Mama from the Train. Owen. But she's very talented. She's very beautiful. She's, she'd be very intimidating. But I think she's approachable enough that Louis Tully would be hitting on her in the apartment. So we've got Charlize Theron. We've got Jennifer Lawrence. Notice that I did not yell out "Winner, winner, chicken dinner" there, Tracy, because Charlize Theron is going to be my choice. Because what am I going to do? That's crazy. But I went with Cate Blanchett.
Oh, I like that one.
Okay, there you go.
I wanted you needed that tall, intimidating, beautiful, but I think she can play mousy librarian type. Well, Charlize can too. It's 3-0, and we still got 4 more to go. So you're not out of this yet.
No, Tyler, I was down 3-0 to start, and I came back to tie it.
So it is definitely possible. And like I said before the show, you've both made some questionable picks. We have gotten through most of yours, Tyler.
Okay, cool. There's a slight hope. You're saying there's a chance.
Yeah, saying there's a chance. So, so now we get to Egon Spengler, played by the late great Harold Ramis, the genius of the Ghostbusters. This guy's the quirky, the weird, the crazy. So Tyler, you go first on this one. Who have you decided would play a good Egon Spengler?
I need someone who could pull off that serious, but then throw in a bit here and there. I went with Sacha Baron Cohen.
Ooh.
Sacha Baron Cohen, yes.
Cohen, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. I'll bail you out. I mean, I'm interested to see what he would look like because he is a good master of disguise. I think the closest he was to himself is Talladega Nights, but he still played a Frenchman, a French Le Mans guy. I think he'd be excellent at this role. He could easily play someone who is eccentrically smart, and you would buy it, and also be awkward and weird, because that's another thing that you have to do, because you're going to have, what is it, Janine? We didn't cast her, but the receptionist.
Secretary, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have someone who can play off her, and I think he would be, I hope he wouldn't play too creepy, but I think he'd be funny, awkward with her. So Tracy, Sacha Baron Cohen, who do you got as Egon?
I'm going to cede this point over to Tyler right now because that is a very good pick. I did go out on a limb on this one. I wanted somebody that would be that had a good voice, that was a little bit weird. I really liked his work in Devs on Hulu. I went with Nick Offerman.
Now, see, this is a good choice if we were doing the animated show, because he would have that voice. He would have the Ron Swanson voice. But yeah, that's kind of that'd be a different one. Because I think he's just too manly. Even when you shave him down, he's too manly.
I could see that.
So Sacha Baron Cohen, Nick Offerman. Tyler gets a point with Sacha Baron Cohen, so he's on the board, 3-1.
Well done, sir.
Very well done. I like him better than my Ed Helms. From the Office, and he was on the Daily Show. Someone who would be smart but also really awkward. Speaking of really awkward, the famous and lovable Rick Moranis, who makes nerds like myself feel like we could be leading men because he is so talented and so funny and so good, as Louis Tully, the nerd who lives down the hall. So now we're going to get with, I believe Tracy has this one, right? Yep. Tracy starts this one. Tracy, who do you have playing? And it's going to be hard to replace Rick Moranis because he is literally perfect in this role. Who do you have as Louis Tully?
Yep, this is another tough one. I went with somebody that could pull off kind of the nerdy guy next door, but pull off the humor. I went with Martin Short.
And Martin Short, that's an interesting, because are you looking like an Ed Grimley type, or are you looking at
a little bit?
Yeah.
I was thinking of the younger Martin Short. Yeah,
because I honestly think that even though Martin plays a lot of weird characters, he's a little too graceful. He's not nearly as awkward nerdy as you think. He can play that, but it's Ed Grimley. It's way too out of the. But it is Martin Short. He's fantastic, and I do like him very much. So yeah, that's a good pick. Tyler.
I went with Charlie Day.
Now, see, that is going to be, especially if you have Jennifer Lawrence going on with that. Charlie Day is the kind. He's the kind of modern day. So why did you pick Charlie?
Well, for one, I was thinking of I wanted someone more modern because Martin Short did come to mind. To be honest, I'm like, no, I need someone who's a little bit more awkward and who will hit on Jennifer Lawrence and kind of put her off, be like, get out of here, dude. And so
absolutely,
Charlie.
I see that point, man.
Yeah, you're gonna have to, because that's exactly who I picked, was Charlie Day. So Tyler, you're back to 2-3. You're just 1 point away. We got 2 points on the board. I went with Zach Galifianakis because especially in like things like Dinner for Schmucks and things like that, he is really weird and goofy, and you want to get away from him as quickly as possible. So yeah, Zach Galifianakis for that. But Charlie Day I think is a better pick than mine. So you've come back strong, Tyler. So now we get to Walter Peck, played by the impossibly perfect. William Atherton. Now, for those of you who don't listen to the podcast on a regular basis, which shame on you, you should, you know that we have designated the Hall of Fame for professional assholes as the William Atherton Hall of Fame, because no one plays a jerk in authority like William Atherton. So as far as I'm concerned, this is going to be the hardest one to go with, because there's so many good assholes in the world that are in cinema, but nobody's better than William. But there are a high echelon, someone that you have not picked that I will talk, like J.T. Walsh is a great asshole. We've all seen them. They all come on and we go, oh, I hate him, but he's so good. And unfortunately, because of this, William Atherton was kind of pigeonholed, and even on the street, people would call him Pecker and things like that. It was after he did this movie, he was pretty much harassed all the time. But we love him. So Tyler, now that I have written my love letter to William Atherton, who do you have replacing him, which you cannot do, for us?
I'm going to murder his name because I think it's Domhnall Gleeson.
Yeah, Domhnall Gleeson. He is on his way easily to the Hall of Fame because he was the crappy guy in the Star Wars sequels. He plays Ebon Maw. Is that the really weird, creepy one that talks to everybody in the Avengers movies? But he can play a regular person too. So why did you pick him?
I was just trying to think of someone, again, that factor of I see this guy's face and I'm like, oh great, here comes the douchebag.
Punchable face is number one you have to have. That's right. If this was a Family Feud, it would be the number one answer on the board. Why is he an asshole? Punchable face. Survey says, yeah, absolutely. Tracy, you're a nice guy. You deal with nice guys all the time with Jake. And so, I'm not sure you know that many assholes. So who do you have to replace this?
I went with a little bit older character. A lot of my picks have been a little more modern. I needed somebody who would be kind of that asshole who was getting up in people's face, and I wanted a voice that was very commanding because William Atherton has such a great voice. I went with Michael Ironsides.
Now, this is a good pick, but I do see one flaw. So William Atherton, in this movie, Walter Peck, is an ineffectual bureaucrat. Michael Ironside gets shit done.
That's true.
I mean, we saw him in Starship Troopers, his Scanners. I threw in Highland too, just because. But he's always great. So we got Domhnall Gleeson, up and coming professional asshole in waiting. Michael Ironside, a great hard ass. But I'm gonna have to go with Domhnall Gleeson, and you did get a tie. I don't want you to think that this was a pity play. I think you have had three solid picks in a row. I went with Michael Stuhlbarg, who is in Doctor Strange. He was the guy that was kind of he's always plays a jerk, kind of.
Yeah, so, that's a good one too.
I don't have pictures for mine because mine are inconsequential, especially if you don't pick them. If you pick them, I'll tell you who they are. But Tracy's 3, Tyler's 3. We move into our final round with the often misunderstood and totally forgotten and not necessarily should. He is one of the hardest working Ghostbusters, and that is Winston Zedmore, played by the incomparable Ernie Hudson. Tracy, who do you got to replace Ernie Hudson as, I guess, the hire, the mercenary? They just kind of picked him up. He was like the hire. The first three were buddies.
He's the blue collar guy. He's kind of the outsider. So I needed somebody that you traditionally plays straight roles, but can pull off humor. I went with Carl Weathers. Oh yes, yeah, that's a good pick. Carl Weathers. If you've seen Arrested Development, you know that he can pull off some great one-liners, and that character certainly needs that. Well, we saw him in Action Jackson. We saw him on all the Rocky movies playing Apollo Creed, so we know he can be flamboyant when he needs to be, but in The Mandalorian, he can be more reserved. In Arrested Development, he can deliver a funny line. That is absolutely true. Tyler, you have some stiff competition. This is going to be hard to beat.
And now I'm almost wondering because Carl Weathers was my first thought.
Yeah, and then you would have tied.
Yeah. But then I'm like, no, I got to try to change it up and throw in a weird one. So with mine, I chose Chris Rock.
All right. Chris Rock. Yes, absolutely. Why did you pick Chris?
He always plays these characters that are kind of on the side, kind of like what Tracy said, a working guy who can be funny and kind of just come into the group being an outsider. He was just my funniest thought.
Well, he's definitely the funniest of the two. Of the two, Carl, he's funnier than Carl Weathers. But we'll take a look here. Carl Weathers was your Winston, Tracy. Chris Rock was yours, Tyler. Now, here's the problem I'm having. Chris Rock would be a great Winston Zedmore if we elevated him to a leading man position. But he's not. He shows up halfway through the movie. He's kind of a side character. So I'm trying to give you my explanation because it's going to hurt when I say that's Carl Weathers. Because Carl Weathers fits that. I can bring him in the middle of the movie and we haven't wasted him. And Chris Rock's going to have to say all the cool lines because he's funny. You can't waste that. Of course, I went with Key's buddy, Jordan Peele. So, Tracy, you have won. Congratulations. That makes it 2 out of 3 for the movies that make us. I hope Jake takes this okay. Because he's such a nice guy. I like Jake a lot. What is your final thought for today?
Ghostbusters is one of my favorite movies. I remember seeing it in the theater with my brother and my 2 sisters. My 2 sisters hated it. My brother and I loved it. It's extremely quotable. This was a hard one to recast, but and Tyler, you gave it a heck of a fight, dude. You had some really, really good picks. So I was lucky to squeak this one out.
Absolutely. It was a squeaker. So I do want you to know you did a fantastic job, Tyler. Just a quick reminder to everybody, if you like the show, you can tweet us at Matinee Heroes. You can follow us at twitch.tv/Matinee Heroes. You can join the Facebook group. That'll tell you when the next episode is, which will be Tuesday of next week at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And of course, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel at matineeheroes.com/CastOFF, and through there you can subscribe, and once we get enough people we can have our own custom channel. Just want to let you guys know next week is our final episode of the season, and we're going to wrap it up with the original Alien cast. That is going to be awesome because there are some great folks in that, but also some folks that you could replace. This is a good cast of truck drivers in space. So next week I hope you join us for CastOFF presents Aliens. So if you like the show, you can subscribe to our podcast, Matinee Heroes, wherever you get podcasts, and you can listen to it. And on behalf of Tyler Russell of the Multiplane Podcast and winner Tracy Mangum of Movies That Make Us, I'm Craig Price.